Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ajay Kumar and I am the Deputy Director for Center for Operational Research in International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease. In this presentation, I am going to show you how to develop an EpiData triplet file, that is a QES file, a REC file, and a CHK file. Just to recap on where we are. So we began with our original data source, which we said for the purpose of this exercise is going to be our TB lab register. And using that, we have prepared a data documentation sheet, which is basically the code book or a plan for data entry. Now we will use that to create our EpiData database, which consists of 3 files, the QES file, the REC file, and the CHK file. Now let me close this presentation and go straight to the EpiData software. When you open EpiData software, you will see right on top the name of the software and the version details. And then you find the menu bar, which I have already explained. Then you find something which is unique to EpiData, a numbered sequence which is called as the work process toolbar, and we will go through each of this in a short while. And then you have the editor bar and then the status bar. Now let's begin to create a QES file. Let's begin with 1. So can you all see here 1 defined data, and there is a small downward arrow to the end. If you go and click there are 2 options. One is new QES file, other one is open QES file. If you want to create a new QES file, click on new QES file. But if you want to open an already existing QES file, then you go to open QES file. But since we are creating a new QES file, I'm going to go and click on new QES file. The moment you do that, you will get a blank screen. Here, this is like a text document, any word processor document. You can type whatever you want. Now let me begin by typing what this study is all about. Let's say the title of this study. So I'm going to simply say laboratory register study. Just giving it a title. Next, let me begin by defining the variables. As you remember, in our file and setting options, we had done something like this. So in how to generate field names, we had ticked the first word in question is field name. So whatever I type first is going to be considered as the field name. So let's take the solution of our previous exercise and go ahead. The first variable is Cerno. Okay, so this is the name of the first variable, and what is the field label? Is laboratory serial number. So that's the second thing you type. First is variable name, the second thing is variable label. And once you have typed the variable label, then comes to define what type of variable this is. Now how do we define variable? So for that, if you go to edit, and there is something called field pick list. Please note a shortcut which is called Control Q. So whether you go to edit and field pick list or type Control Q, it will work the same. So click on field pick list, and now here you can see that you can define whether it is a numeric variable or a text variable or a date variable or any other type. But since this is a numeric variable, I'm going to click on numeric, and it is an integer variable. That means there are no decimals. So it's of length 4. So I'm going to go and say 4 digits. So that's the digits before the decimal point. But since it is not a decimal, I'm going to leave digits after decimal point as it is as 0. and then click insert. If you notice, now I got 4 hash signs to indicate that it is a numeric variable and of length 4. So if it were to be a decimal or a float variable, then I would probably make 1 or 2 decimal points as the case may be. And then you can see here that in the preview it has already changed, and if I say insert, then that thing gets inserted here. But since I don't want that, I'm going to delete all of that and just stick to my original, which is it is an integer variable with length 4. Let me go to the next variable. The next variable is reg-date, and the field label is registration date. And the type of variable is, it's a date variable, and you can see here there are different formats. The date month year format, which is the European date format, month date year format, which is the American date format, year month date format, which is the Chinese date format. You choose whatever is useful for the particular setting. So in here I'm going to use a date month year format and then say insert. Go to the next line. The next variable is sex, and the field label examinees sex, and this is also an integer variable of length 1. So I can go to numeric and say 1 digit before decimal point and insert. Alternately, all I can do is simply type a hashtag, because I now know that hash is a symbol to indicate a numeric variable. So I can simply type a hash and it works the same. Next, the name is age, the label examinees age in years. It is an integer of length 3. So I'm going to type 3 hash signs. Next, the name of the variable is reason, examination reason, that is the label. It's an integer field of length 1. Next, res1, which is result of specimen 1, and it is again an integer field of length 1. res1 sc, result of specimen 1 scanty, and again an integer field of length 1. Now the next fields are similar to this, so I can simply copy this and paste and make the necessary changes. So this is res2 sc, which is nothing but result of specimen 2 and result of specimen 2 scanty. Similarly, this is res3 and res3 scanty, which is nothing but result of specimen 3 and result of specimen 3 scanty. Clear? So we finished typing all our variables in our quest file. But what we haven't done till now is to save these changes, which we should have done by this time. Now, if you look at the top here, it is saying epi editor, saying that you are working in the EpiData editor, and here it says untitled 1. So it is not yet titled anything. So because we haven't saved it. So without wasting much time, we will save this. So how to save? You can either go to file and click save, or use the shortcut option Ctrl S. So when you do that, this dialog box appears and you can type the name of the quest file. Now I'm going to say this is going to be a underscore EX02, and I'm going to save it in our course folder. Do you remember we created a folder called EpiData course in the C drive? So I'm going to go there and save this. Now, the moment I did it, can you see here? You can see clearly now that you are working in a underscore x02.quest, and the same thing appeared here just above the status bar as well. So clearly indicating that you are now in a file called ax02.quest. Let me show you how it looks in the course folder. We should have seen a file created. So this is the new file which has been created, and the name of that file is ax02.quest. Is everything clear now till now how to create a quest file? Yeah. Now after you have created a quest file, one thing I don't really like about this is that the fields are not very well aligned. So in fact, you can preview how it looks in the data form, for which you have to go and click this particular icon. If you click there, you can see that this is how it is going to look while you are doing data entry in the rec file. So this is not looking good because it's all over the place and the fields are not aligned. So let's align the fields. So how do we get out of this preview data form? The shortcut is either you press F10 or you can press Ctrl F4, or you can go to File and say Close Form. Close Form, the shortcut is Ctrl F4. It's a standard Windows shortcut. In Windows, if you want to close a window, then it is Ctrl F4. But if you want to close the application itself, then it is Alt F4. So please remember these shortcuts. It will make you very, very efficient. So I'm going to use Ctrl F4 here and close it. So now we have come here. Let's align these fields. How to align these fields? To align these fields, choose a line which has the longest field label. Let me repeat. Choose a line which has the longest field label. Click there and go to Edit. Can you see here? Align Fields. Click on Align Fields. Okay, something happened but not yet there. So I'm going to go there again and click on Align Fields once more. And now I am aligned all the fields. And now if I preview, this will look neat. Is that clear? I'm going to come out of this preview, and now I have my quest file ready. Okay, is this everyone very clear with how to create a quest file? Can you all do it now? The next step after you have finished creating a quest file is to create a rec file. That is the next, number 2. So you can go and click here and say make data file or create rec file. Both are one and the same. The moment you do that, it is giving you a proposition. It says the quest file is located in C drive EpiData course folder. The name of the file is a_x02. And it is proposing the new data file that it's going to create. It will be stationed in the same folder and has the same name, but it is going to be a rec file. Now this is very smart, and this is as it should be, and probably brings out an important principle, and that is the names of the quests and the rec file should be same, and they should be placed in the same folder for them to be related to each other. They are like brothers and they are like family. They should stay in the same home. That is, they should stay in the same folder and they have the same name. The only thing that is different is the extension. In QES it is .QES, in rec file it is .REC. So do you now appreciate how important it was for us to make the extensions of the files visible? Otherwise, we would have the same file names and we would never realize which is QES and which is rec. So this is why it is important to make extensions visible. So I'm going to accept this suggestion and say OK. It is asking me to give a file label, so give some extra documentation. I'm going to simply say exercise 2 for our purposes here, and then say OK. And then it gives me an information that data file ax02.rec has been created, and it also indicates where it is. And I'm going to say OK. Is this very clear? Very simple how to create a rec file. You have a QES file and all you have to do is make data file and then a rec file gets created. Let me go and verify if that is the case. So I'm back to my course folder. I have a QES file and I also have a rec file. So we have learned how to make a QES file and how to make a rec file. Let me quickly show you how to open a QES file and how to close a QES file. For that, go to 1 and then choose the option Open QES file. Once you do that, it always goes back to the place where you were last working. So since we were working here in this course folder, so it goes back there and prompts the QES file to be taken up. So I'm going to click on that QES file and say open, and now I have the QES file open. And how do I close it? Shortcut key Control F4. This is how I open a QES file and close a QES file. Now how do I open a rec file? For opening a rec file, you have to go to number 4, enter data. So click on there and then it will go again to the same folder. Choose the rec file and say open. And that's how you open a rec file. And to close a rec file, same thing, Control F4. In fact, this is sufficient for us to begin our data entry. Let me start and show you a sample. I have opened a rec file. I can start entering data. So 1 rec date. Let me enter some date 1/1/12. Examinee sex. I'm going to type something. Age in years. I'm typing something. Reason. Okay. Okay. So, actually I've finished entering one record. But what is the problem here? The problem is, since we have not applied any checks, you can clearly see that I'm making a lot of mistakes during data entry. And this is what happens when you use a tool which does not have inbuilt checks. I often see people use Excel as the tool for data entry. Unfortunately, that is not a tool designed for data entry. It's a great spreadsheet, very useful for automated calculations, but it's not suited for data entry. And if you use an Excel sheet for data entry, you will end up making all these horrible mistakes. So let's stop it here and quickly move to how to make a check file. Now, even before that, I wanted to show you that there are some inbuilt checks by virtue of the definition of the variable itself. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me open the rec file. So for example, the serial number was a numeric field. It was an integer field. That means it can allow only numbers. It cannot allow any other characters to be entered. So there is some inbuilt check already. So for example, I'm trying to type an alphabet here, but I'm hearing a beep sound which tells me that no, it's not working. So I have to type a number here and then only I can go forward. Similarly, in date, let me take an illegal date and try if it allows an illegal date. So for example, 31st February 2013. It immediately says that this is an illegal date and please enter dates in a particular format. Do you see this? So by virtue of the field definition itself, some checks are being applied. But that's not enough. It can only take you so far. So if you want more checks, then we have to use the option of checks that are available in EpiData. Now this is the brain of EpiData. The smartest thing in EpiData is the check file. Okay, so let's begin to make a check file. So this is logically the next in this sequence. One is for making a quest file, 2 is for making a rec file, and 3 is for making a check file. Now I'm going to click on this 3 checks, and then I'm going to choose the rec file for which I have to make the checks. Do you note this point? This is not very intuitive, but you have to remember. Normally, when we want to open a file, we click on that file. For example, if I want to open a quest file, I'm going to click on the quest file and say open. And if I want to open a rec file, I'm going to click on the rec file and say open. But here I want to open the check file, but I'm going to click on the concerned rec file instead of the check file. Do you see this? Please note this, because whenever you go from the menu option to make the checks, that is number 3, you have to click on the rec file, the corresponding rec file for which you want to add the checks, and then say open. And the moment you do that, you will get a window like this where you can clearly see all the variables, and then a separate window where you can apply your checks. Now before you apply any checks, the first thing you have to do is you have to go take your cursor to the variable where you want to apply the check. So for example, if you want to apply the check on age, go and click on that particular variable, and then you know that this is highlighted, and also the age appears in this particular pop-up window. Now whatever checks you apply now will be applied to this particular variable. Is this clear? So if I want to apply a check on laboratory serial number, I'll go there and click there first and then start applying the checks. Okay, let's begin to apply some checks. The first check I want all of you to learn is, let's say the serial number, I want to make this a must enter field. That means this field cannot be empty. Nobody can leave this field empty. So I'm going to go here. Can you see here must enter? And click on the drop down and choose yes. And the moment I do that and save, now this becomes a must enter field. Now let's check whether it is working or not. And this is one of the first principles I want to get you early on. Any check command that you apply, any manipulation that you do in the check file, please enter some dummy data and really see whether it's working as intended or not. Okay, this is very, very important. Every time you make a check, please check whether it's working or not. Okay, so I'm going to close and really check whether this must enter thing is working or not. I'm open this file. So I am in serial number and I don't want to enter anything and want to go to the next field. So I'll press an enter key and it tells me and gives me a warning that data must be entered in this field. So it's very clearly telling me that unless I enter data here, I will not be able to go forward. Is this point very clear? So this check is working. So I'm going to close the rec file. I'm going back to my check file to put more checks. So this is one of the principles. As I told you, I do not like a database which has empty fields, because when you see an empty field, you don't know whether it's because the data was missing in the original source or the data entry operator forgot to enter. So we want every field to be a must enter, and if there was data missing, we give the option of entering some value to indicate that the data was indeed missing. So I want to make each of the fields must enter. So how do I do that? I go here, I have made must enter, can go to the next field and again do must enter, and the next field and must enter, and so on. But again, to make this process more efficient, other than clicking in every variable, I can use a shortcut key called Control E. Now E is because in must enter there is a small underline below the E. That means if I use Control E, it is a must enter command. Okay, so I'm going to a new variable. I'm going to click Control E, and it's going to give the same thing as what I did. So I can use the cursor to go to the next field and press Control E, and so on, and so on. Do you see this? If I press Control E again, it goes back as no. So Control E is a toggle key to ensure whether the field is must enter or not. So I have made all my fields must enter and I saved it. Now at this point I want to show you an important principle. Now there are two ways of manipulating a check file. One is a menu based manipulation, which I showed you here. But there is also another way that you can manipulate. And let me take this example of must enter to demonstrate it. So you've done a must enter, you've done all the fields must enter. Now let's take serial number, which you have done must enter, and go to edit. Go to edit. Can you see this here? So here it is telling me that the serno is the name of the variable, and as per the syntax it should terminate with an end. In between these two lines there is a command called must enter, telling me that this particular field is a must enter field. Now I can delete this and notice what happens. So currently this is a must enter field and there is a yes here. I'm going to delete this must enter sentence written in the syntax, delete it and say accept and close, and you see it is no. I can go there again and type must enter and say accept and close. This becomes yes. So do you appreciate that there are two ways of manipulating a check file? One is the menu based option. The other one is you can straight away enter the commands in the check file and it executes the same way as you would do in a menu. And this is going to be the main use. In fact, if you see the menu based options, they are very, very limited. And if you want to do more manipulations in the check file, the way to go is editor. Okay, so for this reason, I want you to understand this very important principle. Is this clear, everyone? Must enter, how to make each field must enter. Now let's go one more step. I want to make this serial number as my unique identifier. Okay, this is going to be, as I told you, no database can be there without a unique identifier. Let's assume for a time being that this laboratory serial number is going to be my unique identifier. How do I make a variable unique identifier? What do I mean by unique identifier? That means in a database, no two records can have the same serial number. That means if there is one record with the serial number 1, there cannot be another record with the same serial number. And if there is one, it should object. Okay, so how do we ensure that? It's very simple. As you see, there is no menu based option here. All you have to do is go to edit. There is already a command, must enter. I'm going to go to the next line and type a command, key unique. Okay, is this very clear? So I'm going to type a command. This is a new command to make a variable a key identifier, unique identifier. So the command is key unique, 2 words, key unique, and then say accept and close and save it. Now, as usual, let's test it. Now, before we test it, let's go back and check what are the files we have. So we have a quest file, we have a rec file, and we also have a check file now. Okay, great. So let's come back to software. Let's try if the key unique is actually working or not. I'm going to say enter data, open this. Okay, let me say 1 and put some date. Okay, must be entered, so it is working, must be entered, working. So I have entered some dummy data. I'm going to save this to the disk. Okay, now I'm going to enter 1 again. Okay, and if the function is working, it should not allow me to enter 1 again in serial number. Let me type a 1. The moment I say that, it stays, it's a duplicate key in Cerno. This value has already been entered in record 1. And it asks me to go to record 1. Either I have the option to go to record 1. If I say yes, it will take me to record 1. If I say no, it will stay there, but it will not allow me to go forward. Now, so it means I either have to change this and move forward, or have to go back to record 1 and correct it. Is this clear? How to make a variable a key unique identifier of the database? This is very, very important. Now let me close this. Now since I have entered some fake data, I want to clean it up. How do I clean it up? All you have to do is go and click on make data file, and when you say make data file, it will erase all the old data that you have and create a fresh and new rec file. So I say okay, it asks you, it already exists, do you want to overwrite? I will say okay. It is still asking you, it will be deleted, are you sure? So EpiData is being very, very careful here, and I'm still saying okay, and it asks for the variable and say it has been created. Is this very clear? How to overwrite an existing rec file using make data file function? This is very important, and I'll come back to it a little later. So we have learned in terms of checks how to make a field must enter and how to make a field key unique, or how to make a variable the unique identifier of the database. Now let's learn some more checks. I'm opening the check file. Let's look at our data documentation sheet, and let me go to rec date. We had some range of legal values that we wanted to enter. So how do we do that? Okay, so I'm going to this place called range, legal, and I'm going to enter. So the legal range is from 0101/2000 to, that 2 is indicated by a hyphen, 31/12/2005. Now this is the range of legal values. In addition, we have also indicated 11/1800 to be for missing date. So how do I indicate that value? You put a comma and type 0101 1800. That is how you give a range and legal values. This is the syntax. So whatever in case of continuous variables, you give a range and then give as many legal values as you want separated by commas. Now please note that you cannot give two ranges. You can give only one range and indicate all the rest of the values as legal values separated by commas. Okay, so let me save this. Okay, and I also want to quickly show you how it looks. So the command is range, the first date and the last date, and then the legal values that is indicated by the command legal, and that's how it is functioning in the background. I'm going to accept and close here, save it. Okay, let's go to one more variable. Now in sex, this is a categorical variable and has only 3 values to take, 1, 2 and 9, and we want it to come out as a label block. That means during data entry, the moment I go to that field, I must get a little label block saying 1 is for female, 2 is for male and 9 is for sex not recorded, and I should be able to choose from the existing options. How do we set that up? So the first step here is to create the label block. Now where do we create the label block? So click on that variable, and can you see here value label? At the end of this you see a small plus. Now click on that plus, and the moment you click on that plus, you will get a new window. It is with something already written there. It is indicating that this is a label block for the variable sex. So it's given a name for that particular label block. It says label underscore sex. You can change it or allow it to leave as it is by default. And there is an end. And the cursor is blinking in between. That means you have to define all your values and value labels in between these two lines. Now please remember this, because I often see people make mistakes typing it elsewhere or outside, and then it will give errors. You have to type or define your values and value labels in between these two lines. Now let's start. It's 1 female, 2 male, and 9 says sex not recorded. Now another principle is, whenever you have a value label which is more than one word, you have to put that within double quotes. Please remember this. Okay, for a single word you don't need double quotes, but even if you put double quotes, it's not harmful. It won't create a problem, but you won't need it. So I'm not going to put double quotes around male or female, but around sex not recorded. Since it is more than one word, I have to put this in a double quote. The other common mistake which people do is to leave spaces in between. And then if you ask accept and close, it is giving you an error message because it's expecting something to be entered here. So don't leave unnecessary spaces. So if you do this and then say accept and close, did you notice what happened? It was empty here. Now it is telling for this particular variable, it is having a label block, and the name of that label block is label underscore sex. Is this very clear? Let's examine now. Go to edit and examine if this is properly working or not. In edit, let's see what are the commands. Now it says comment legal, okay, use label sex. That means the legal values for this particular variable comes from the label block label sex. That is what it means. So this is a categorical variable, and some people do the mistake of creating a label block, but also defining under the range or legal values 1, 2 and 9. Now you don't have to do both. The moment you create a label block, it is automatically understood that whatever the values that are given or defined in the label block are the only legal values. Is this clear, everyone? Okay, I'm going to say accept and close for now and just check how it is working. Every time you do a check if it's working or not. So I'm going to go to enter data to say 1 and I'm going to type, let's say 2015. Okay, just to check whether the legal range and the legal value is working or not. It's telling me it's an illegal entry, the legal values are so and so. So I have to now make changes accordingly and then only I can go forward. Now when I came to this particular thing, I know that there are only 3 legal values, 1, 2 and 9. But let me type an 8 and it tells me it's an illegal entry and press plus or F9 to see legal values. I say OK and press F9. The moment I press an F9, I get a label block, a neat, nice little label block like this. And then I can choose the right value. Now I wish it had happened even before I did an error. Okay, the moment I go into that field, the label block should show up. Now how do you make that happen? Let me close this, go back to my checks. Okay, go to checks and then say edit. Now there is already a command, comment legal use label checks. Go to the end of that line and type the command show, single word show. That means you are asking the software to show the label block the moment you enter that field. So that it should pop up and that is what it is going to happen. Let's quickly see if that is working or not. Okay. Okay, now it is working. So the moment you enter to that field, you can see and clearly choose what you want. But I would also wish that whenever you choose the value label also appears by the side, so that it's sort of a confirmation that you chose what you intended. Okay, so how to make that happen? Let's quickly look at that. Go to checks, open the check file, go to checks, edit, so show, and then go to the next line here and type comment, 2 words. This is the other command. So you make a label block and type 2 commands. One is show to pop up and type comment so that the labels are typed by the side of the field. Let's see how it works. Enter data, open the rec file 1, and let's say I choose female. Female appears by the side. It's a sort of nice confirmation that you actually chose the right thing. So if I can say 2, becomes 9, 6 not recorded. Now this appearance of the label by the side of the field is the function of type comment. Is this clear, everyone? So what all we have learned? To summarize, in the checks, we've learned how to make all the fields must enter. We've learned how to add a range of legal values, okay, and several legal values separated by commas. This we do in case of continuous variables, and in case of a categorical variables, what we do is create a label block. How do we create a label block? Click on this plus, define your values and value labels. And once you do that, go to edit and type 2 commands, show and type comment. And then you have it all done. Is this clear? So now take some time and create the other checks that are required for other variables in this database. Now use the solution data documentation sheet we have prepared so that you are uniformly working on the same data set. Now let's move on. Let me apply some checks for age. Now I see for age there are some ranges, so 0 to 125, comma, and then for missing it is 999. So I can save it. So that is all for age. Reason is a categorical variable, it's diagnosis or follow-up. So I have to create a label block for reason. So I will go and click on this plus. The cursor is blinking between the two lines, and then I can begin. 0 is diagnosis, 1 is follow up at first month. Okay, so again, because since this is more than a word, I have put it within double quotes. Now then I can copy this and paste as many as I want, and then change 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There is one more, 9. Similarly, let me change here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Say 7 months or later. This is as per our data documentation sheet. Follow up month not stated, that is 8. And then 9 is reason not recorded. No empty spaces. Let me close it up. Is this everything clear? Okay, and I'm going to say accept and close. It says a label with this particular name already exists in the label library file. Now I will discuss about this library file a little later. So should the new label be used instead? I'm going to say OK and click save. So I have got my label. And then the other two things that I have to do without forgetting is show and type comment. Accept and close. Let's go to the next variable, result 1. Okay, what is the, so this is also a categorical variable, and so we have to create a label block. So instead of saying label result 1, I'm going to say simply label res. Okay, and I'll tell you why I did that. Then I'm going to define my values and value labels. 0, negative, 1 says 1 plus positive. Okay, copy this. So 2 is 2 plus positive, 3 is 3 plus positive, 4 is positive not quantified, 5 is scanty not quantified, 6 is scanty quantified, and then I have a 9, which is result not recorded. Okay, so I've got all my variables, values and value labels defined. Say accept and close, save. Going to click on this plus, I've got that. I'm going to click on edit and make it show and type comment, accept and close. Now since I have done the result of specimen 1, I know the result of specimen 2 and result of specimen 3 will have the same values and value labels. So instead of typing all over again, I can simply draw it from this label res. So I can simply go to label res2 and click on this drop down and say label res and save. Okay, now all of this has already come. Okay, and I can simply go to edit and type show and type comment. Is that clear? So this is a quick way of incorporating the same label to a new variable. Now there's another way of handling this. So let's assume the res3 is also the same thing. So what I can do is I can go to res2 and click on edit and just copy all the checks that are required. So copy, go to res3, click on edit and paste. So in one shot you have ensured that you use the same label block. So you've got it here, and also include show and type comment. Now this is how you can be very efficient. Similarly, let's do for res1 scanty. Let's create a variable for res1 scanty. Now let me see if I had created it earlier and I have it in my library. Can you see label scanty here? I can simply pick right from there and save it. Okay, click edit. It's already come, so I'm say show type comment. So it's giving me an error. Let me cancel. Go to another field, come back there, click on scanty and save it. Okay, it has everything here. I can accept and close. Still not getting highlighted. So the only way to make this work is to close it and reopen. And now if you go to scanty, this is highlighted. That means it is part of this database now. And now if you go to edit and say show and type comment, it works. Is this clear? So there is a file called .lbl file in your database. Now let me show you very quickly. So if you go to C drive and your software folder, look for EpiData.lbl. Now this is the file. Now let me open this. Now here I have already have a library of label blocks in which I have a variable label block for the variable scanty. Can you see this? So if you create a label block and any other study that you are going to, any future study which has the same variables, you can simply draw from your library. There is no need to type it again. So this is how it makes it very efficient. So let me go back. Let me go back to the software. So I have got show type comment. I'm going to simply copy this because it's going to be the same for res2 scanty and res3 scanty as well. Okay, So I pretty much finished most of the checks that are required. Now let me close and see if these checks are all working. Let me open it. Okay, one, must enter, working. So today's date doesn't work. I have to choose a date in the proper legal range. Okay, the pop-up is working. Female. Age, let me choose 345. No, I can't. So I have to choose one. Okay, it's working. Now I have the reason. Let me choose something. Diagnosis. Great, the type comment is working. Let me choose a negative. Okay. Negative, not applicable. Negative, not applicable. Fantastic. So all the checks that we have applied seems to be working. Okay, but without saving, I want to show you something of a problem here. So let me go here, negative. Instead of negative, let's say I have chosen positive. The result of specimen 1 scanty is not applicable, but let's say I choose a 3. Okay, now this is a problem. So for example, whenever the result of the first specimen, that is res1, is anything other than 6, this should be not applicable. But I am entering something wrong here and it is allowing that to happen. Now this should never happen. In fact, if this value of res1 is anything other than 6, it should simply skip this field and go to res2. Now how do we make that function happen? Is this very clear? Is the setup very clear? We have clearly mentioned in our plan that if the entered value of res1 is any value other than 6, then it should write 0 in the next field and skip it or bypass it. So let's try and get that done. I don't want to save it. So let me go to checks again. Go to res1. We have to do something here. Now here I'm going to introduce you to two new commands. One is called after entry end command. The other one is called if then and if command. Okay, these are two commonly used most important commands, and I want all of you to learn these two commands. Now what is an after entry command? After entry command is a block command which basically tells that after a value is entered in this particular field, you need to do something. You are telling the software that something needs to happen after a value is entered in that particular field. So that is what is after entry command. So how do we do that? So go to edit. I'm going to go below here and type after entry. And as a syntax, it should terminate in a end. And in between these two, you can ask anything that needs to happen. Okay, so here the premise is if the value entered is not equal to 6, okay, then something needs to happen. What is that? It has to type 0 into res1 scanty and then go to res2. That is what needs to happen. Now for that we have to use another command called if then and if. That is, if, then you have to put your condition res1 not equal to 6. A not equal to is indicated by a less than and a greater than symbol together. So this is the condition. If res1 not equal to 6, then, okay, this is the syntax. If then, okay, then what needs to be done? Go to res2 and every if should terminate by syntax with an end if. Is this clear? So if res1 not equal to 6, then go to rest2, and because we have begun an if, we have to end it with a end if. That is the syntax: if, then, and end if. And in between the two lines, you can ask what needs to be done. We also want that a 0 is entered for res1 scanty. So I can also say res1 scanty should be equal to 0, and then say go to res2. Is this very clear to everyone, the way we are thinking? So let me close it. So we have done an after entry end, and we have said if res1 not equal to 6, then res1 scanty should be 0 and it should go to res2. Let's see if this is working or not. Enter data, open rec file. Let me type a negative. So if I type a negative, then it should type a 0 in the next field and the cursor should move to res2. Is that happened? Yes, it happened. So that check appears to be functioning. Now we have to do the same thing for res2 and res3. Clear? So let's quickly get that done. Go to checks, click on the rec file, and so you've gone here, edit, not here, in res1, and you've got the command. Is that clear? Now all I'm going to do is just copy this, go to res2 and paste it appropriately and make changes, because here we have to say if res2 is not equal to 6, then res2 scanty is 0, and then you say go to res3, then say accept and close. Similarly, you have to go to res3, paste again, then say res3 not equal to 6, then res3 scanty should be 0, and go to, there is nowhere to go to, that is the res3 scanty is the last field in that particular record. So you have to go to saving the record, and for that the command is go to write. Go to write. Go to write means it will go to saving the record. Now let us see if all these are functioning or not. Go to enter data, open the file, type something, let's put a negative here. Okay, it's working. Let's put 1 plus. Good, it's working. Let's put 5. It's working and it's going for save record to disk. So it is working. So clear everyone? Now let's try one more thing. Okay, so let's say instead of scanty not quantified, let's choose a 6 scanty quantified, and then it should go and ask what is the actual value. Now here I have to choose whether it is scanty 1, 2, 3, but let's say I will choose 0. It is actually allowing for that. Now this is also a situation I don't want to happen. Is this clear? Because when this is scanty quantified, the next variable cannot be not applicable. You have to have something valid entered here. Is it going to be scanty 1, 2 or scanty 9? Correct? Okay. So how do we ensure that this situation, that you type a 6 in res3 whereas type 0 in res3-CHK does not happen. Okay, or if it happens, it will alert you to saying that this is incorrect, not compatible, and please check. Okay, let's see how to give alerts to the data entry operator. Let me close it. Go to checks, click on the rec file where you want to make the check. Now, for that, we have to go to res1-CHK because this relates to the pair of values entered. One is res1, other one is res1-CHK. And only after both the values have been entered can you look for whether they are compatible or not. So I'm going to do an after entry command in res1-CHK. Go there and say after entry, and it's a good practice to put the skeleton before you type any more commands. So after entry should always end with a end. So I will type both of them together before I do anything else. Similarly, if should always end with a end if. I'm going to type both and then type whatever I need in between. So what is the condition? If res1 equals to 6, so that is one condition. I'm going to put that condition in bracket, and then and, so I'm going to use a Boolean operator here, or and, you can use anything, but here I'm going to say and res1-CHK equals 0. And I'm going to put this one also into a bracket. These are the two conditions. If res1 equals 6 and res1-CHK equals 0, then what? Then I think we should give a message to the data entry operator. Now, how do you interact with the data entry operator? The command is help. So help followed by your message in double quotes. So here I'm going to say res1 and res1 SC values incompatible. Please check, something like that. So I can give a clear message to the data entry operator that this cannot work. So there is some inconsistency here. Please go back and check. And then also prompt to go to res1. So I'm going to tell that the cursor should go back to res1 because either res1 is wrong or res1-CHK is wrong, and one of the two has to be corrected before the data entry operator can proceed forward. So by doing go to res1, we are creating a loop so that it remains there until this inconsistency is resolved. Okay, so I'm going to say accept and close and see whether it is working or not. Go here, let me enter some data. Okay, I should have tried another one. So 6 and 0. So this is the situation we did not want. So I'm going to say okay, and it's giving me an alert saying res1 and res1 SC values incompatible, please check. And when I say okay, the cursor is back to res1. If I do again, it goes back. So we have entered into a loop here, and to get out of that loop we have to resolve this. Either 6 is incorrect, so you change to 3, then you come out of it. Is that clear? Okay, so we have to do the same thing for the pairs of res2 and res3 as well. So let's quickly finish it off. These are probably the final checks in this exercise. So I'm going to go to res1-CHK and copy this. This is what I wanted. Go to res2-CHK. Copy, paste. and make changes. So here it's going to be res2 and res2 scanty, and then say res2 and res2 scanty are incompatible, and then go to res2. Clear? Similarly, I will go to res3 scanty, enter, paste, then I'm going to say res3, make changes in the message and say go to res3. So this is how you finish all the checks. Now let's do one final check if everything is working. So one, okay, if I press a 0, then this is working. If I press a 6, then it should go to the next field, and if I press a 0, it's telling me and it takes me back. So then I press a 3. Similarly, I do a 6 and a 0, it's taking me back. Then if I say a 3, then it works fine. So all the checks are working fine. Is this all clear to you? How to make a QES file, how to make a REC file, and how to make a check file. And under the checks, we have learned several check commands: how to make a field must enter, how to make a variable the key unique identifier, how to give range and legal values for continuous variables, how to create a label block for a categorical variable, and the commands show and type comment to go with it. And also we have learned a block command called after entry end, as well as the most important conditional command called if then end if. Okay, we've also learned a command to interact with the data entry operator, and that is help. Clear? Okay, let's note a final few important points in this particular exercise. First, the QES file defines the structure of the database, and I think that's very, very clear. The REC file is the one which contains all the data. The check file has all the rules of data entry. Now, if you want to add, edit, or delete a variable, which file should you manipulate? It's clear, it's the QES file, because that is where we define the structure of the database. If you want to enter data, which file would you manipulate? It's going to be the REC file. Adding, editing, or deleting data, that's the file to manipulate. And if you want to add, edit, or delete a rule for data entry, which file would you manipulate? That's the check file. Is this clear, everyone? QES, REC, and check file, and the clear functions of each of them. Okay, let's move on. This is another important point to note. The QES, REC, and check files of a project belong to the same family and hence should stay together. I think I've already said this. What do you mean belong to the same family? They should have the same name. So that's one of the first principles. They should have the same name and should stay in the same folder. In fact, that is how they are linked with each other. If you separate them or put it in different folders, they are no more linked to each other and all functionality will be lost. Anytime somebody asks you to share your data, you must share all the three files: QES, REC, and the check files. Is this point clear? Okay. Some of you I've seen, when I ask you to share data, you send me only the REC file. Now, only the REC file will not help me because I will not be able to understand what are the values and value labels, what are the codes. So it will make no sense to me. So you must send the check file along with your REC file, and only then I can read and make sense of the data. And the QES file, what happens if you only share the REC file? I've already said. And what happens if you don't share the QES file? Probably not much. I mean, REC and check files are probably enough for functionality. But if I want to make changes in the definition of variables or make changes to the quest file, then probably I will definitely need the quest file. Without quest file, I'll not be able to make those changes. But there is a way that I can extract the quest file out of the rec file, because quest is already become part of the rec file. And I'm going to show you that in a little while. Okay, let's assume that you have sent me only the rec file. I've got it. Let me paste it on the desktop. Okay, here is the rec file. Let me try and open the file on the desktop. Okay, rec file, and you can see that I can enter anything. None of the checks are working. Okay, everything can be wrong. So that's important. So without check file, it is not going to work properly. So let's say you've given me the rec and the check file, no quests. Okay, so let me go there and try to enter data in the rec file now, and okay, the checks begin to function. Okay, so rec and check are clearly essential to go together. But even if the quest is not there, let us say I want to make a small change in the quest file. For example, when I'm entering data, the data entry operator does not know what is the value for missing date, okay, or what is the value for missing age. In categorical variables, we have made that as one of the options, giving 9 as missing, not recorded, 99, things like that. Whereas in continuous variables, there is no way to find out what is the value we have assigned for missing date. So how to ensure that this is known to the data entry operator? One way is to write a comment next to the field that please enter this if the value is missing. Now, how do I make it happen? So I have to make some changes in the quest file to reflect that this is happening. Now, how do I make that? Now, because you have sent me only the rec file and the check file. I do not have the quest file. How do I get a quest file? So one option is I can go to tools, and can you see this quest file from rec file? So I can click on quest file from rec file. This is the rec file in the desktop, and then I say okay, fine, it will create a quest file. Okay, it says quest file created. Now let me go and open that quest file. Here I have it. So in a sense, although I said that all three files should be together, but the most essential ones are really the rec and the check, because we can extract the quest file out of the rec file. But it's a good practice to keep all the three files together, however. Okay, so let me try and write a comment here. So go to that line, rec date, go to the end of it, give a space and say enter 1/1/1800 for missing date. Okay, similarly I can say enter 999 for missing age. Is this clear? So I have made changes to the quest file. Okay, and one of the principles I want to emphasize here is if you make any changes to the quest file, you have to update your rec file. Okay, and there are two ways of doing that. One is go and say make data file. Okay, and you can say okay, then you will get a new database. The other way of doing this is especially when you have entered partially some data and do not want to lose it. Instead of make data file, which will erase all the data and create an empty new data file, go to tools and then say revise data file. And then it is going to say this is the revised quest, this is the data file to revise, and then you can say OK. And it says it has been created and the original has been renamed as old.rec. Is this clear? Can you clearly now differentiate between creating a rec file afresh to revising an existing rec file? Okay, so that is another important principle that you have to remember. So let's come back. So any change in the quest file, you will have to update the rec file. I have already shown you how to do it. And be familiar with opening, editing, and closing all three files. Is this all clear? Now this concludes this marathon but very important session of how to create a quest file, a rec file, check file, and understand how these three are related to each other. Thank you very much.